Good Monday morning. Welcome to the Order of Monday Morning. I know I'm a little bit late today, but it's the Feast of Epiphany. And as you can see, the Feast of Epiphany uh, marks the time when we let our hair grow out and we let our beard get bit shaggy and we have fuzzy hair. Thank you for reminding me, for being kind and saying you love my fuzzy hair. Well, if it warms up at all today, I'm going to get a haircut. Okay. So I know I look like one of the three wise men. There's my segue. This is the Feast of Epiphany. And I want you to know that today's talk has absolutely nothing to do with the Feast of Epiphany. Although the Feast of Epiphany is celebrated, it celebrates kind of three stories of the gospel narrative. Okay, first of all, the Feast of Epiphany is when the Christ child is sort of officially recognized as the future king of Israel. If you look close enough at even the all altered and mutated gospel story, three wise men didn't come to proclaim him a spiritual prince, but as a temporal prince, okay? A newborn king of Israel, just like Prince Charles grew up to be King Charles, okay? It was a political thing, and in those days, just like in India and Tibet today, the people's birth is sort of charted astrologically and such. And in the case of the any question about whether the bloodline is was Prince Charles really the heir of the throne? Okay, it would take genealogists and stuff, experts to confirm that. And in Tibet, the Dalai Lamas, or in the old days anyway, Dalai Lamas, when one Dalai Lama died, they kind of immediately set to work to see what his next incarnation was, and they did it astrologically and such. So it's not a far-fetched thing. Anyway, this talk has nothing to do with the Feast of Epiphany. Well, the other thing that that the Feast of Epiphany represents is the feast, the miracle of the feast of the wedding at Cana. That gospel event is celebrated at the Feast of Epiphany, and another thing that's celebrated is Jesus's baptism by John the Baptist. Okay. Those three events. Now, it just so happens, now I'm not going to talk about the Feast of Epiphany here, but those three Feast of Epiphany events, okay, I focus on, at least in the first half of my novel, An Accidental Christ, because they seem like very important events in the story, as if you sort of meditated on or speculated on what the actual occurrence, how it could have unfolded to appear so miraculous when it was just kind of a straightforward political thing. Anyway, I won't be talking about the Feast of Epiphany this morning. I just want to follow up a bit on what I said over the last couple days, that sort of some people may think that it reflects poorly on the presumptions of initiates and members of magical organizations, and trying to understand what makes people disgruntled and things like that, and it's understandably so. But I'd like to read something serious first, and then something that I had to say. And the serious thing is a very short little Class B document, which is based on a Golden Dawn lecture, okay? And it's called Liber Libri. Learn first, O thou who aspirest into our ancient order, that equilibrium is the basis of the work. If thou thyself hast not a sure foundation, wherein wilt thou stand to direct the forces of nature? Know then that as man is born into this world amidst the darkness of matter and the strife of contending forces, so must his first endeavor be to seek the light through the reconciliation. Thou then who hast trials and troubles, rejoice because of them, for in them is strength, and by their means is a pathway opened unto that light. How should it be otherwise, O man, whose life is but a day in eternity, a drop in the ocean of time? How were thy trials not many? Couldst thou purge thy soul from the dross of earth? Is it but now that the higher life is beset with dangers and difficulties? Hath it not ever been so with the sages and hierophants of the past? They've been persecuted and reviled. They've been tormented of man. Yet through this all, their glory has increased. Rejoice, therefore, O initiate, for the greater thy trial, the greater thy triumph. When men shall revile thee and speak against thee falsely, hath not the Master said, Blessed art thou? Yet, O aspirant, let thy victories bring thee not vanity, for with increased knowledge should come increase of wisdom. He who knoweth little thinketh he knoweth much, but he who knoweth much has learned his own ignorance. Seest thou a man wise in his own conceit? There's more hope of a fool than of him. Be not hasty to condemn others. How knowest thou that in their place thou couldst have resisted the temptation? And even were it so, why should thou despise one who is weaker than thyself? Thou, therefore, who desireth magical gifts, be sure that thy soul is firm and steadfast. For it is by flattering thy weakness that the weak ones will gain power over thee. Humble thyself before thyself, yet fear neither man nor spirit. Fear is failure, and the forerunner of failure, and courage is the beginning of virtue. Therefore fear not the spirits, but be firm and courteous with them, for thou hast no right to despise or revile them. And this too may lead thee astray. Command and banish them, curse them by the great names if need be, but neither mock nor revile them, for so assuredly wilt thou be led into error. A man is what he maketh himself within the limits fixed by his inherited destiny. He's part of mankind. His actions affect not only what he calleth himself, but also the whole universe. Worship and neglect not the physical body, which is thy temporary connection with the outer and material world. Therefore, let thy mental equilibrium be above disturbance by material events. Strengthen and control the animal passions. Discipline the emotions and the reason, and nourish the higher aspirations. Be good unto others for its own sake, not for reward, not for gratitude from them, not for sympathy. If thou art generous, thou wilt not long for thine ears to be tickled by expressions of gratitude. Remember that unbalanced force is evil. That unbalanced severity is but cruelty and oppression. But also unbalanced mercy is but weakness, which would allow and abet evil. Act passionately, think rationally, be thyself. True ritual is as much action as word. It is will. Remember that this earth is but an atom in the universe, and thou thyself art but an atom thereon, and even couldst thou become a god of this earth wherein thou crawlest and grovellest, that thou wouldst even then be but an atom and one among many. Nevertheless, have the greatest self-respect, and to that end sin not against thyself. The sin which is unpardonable is knowingly and willfully to reject the truth, to fear knowledge, lest that knowledge pander not to thy prejudices. To obtain magical power, learn to control thought. Emit only those ideas that are in harmony with the end desired, not every stray and contradictory idea that presents itself. Fixed thought is a means to an end. Therefore, pay attention to the power of silent thought and meditation. The material act is but the outward expression of thy thought, and therefore hath it been said that the thought of foolishness is sin. Thought is the commencement of action, and if a chance thought can produce much effect, what cannot a fixed thought do? Therefore, as hath already been said, establish thyself firmly in the equilibrium of forces, in the center of the cross of the elements, that cross from whose center the creative word issued at the birth of the dawning universe. Be thou, therefore, prompt and active as the sylphs, but avoid frivolity and caprice. Be energetic and strong like the salamanders, but avoid irritability and ferocity. Be flexible and attentive to images like the undines, but avoid idleness and changeability. Be laborious and patient like the gnomes, but avoid grossness and avarice. So shalt thou gradually develop the powers of thy soul, and fit thyself to command the spirits of the elements. For wert thou to summon the gnomes to pander to thine avarice, thou wouldst no longer command them, but they would command you. Wouldst thou abuse the pure beings of the woods and mountains to fill thy coffers and satisfy thy hunger for gold? Wouldst thou debase the spirits of the living fire to serve thy wrath and hatred? Wouldst thou violate the purity of the souls of the water to pan to thy lust of debauchery? Wouldst thou force the spirits of the evening breeze to minister to thy folly and caprice? Know that with such desires thou canst but attract the weak, not the strong. And in that case, the weak will have power over thee. In true religion there is no sect. Therefore take heed that thou blaspheme not the name by which another knoweth his God. If thou do this thing in Jupiter, wilt thou blaspheme Yehovah? And in Osiris, Yeshua? Ask and ye shall have, seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Now, those are wise words that we should probably revisit on a regular basis when we start to think about our magical career. Let's see here. How am I going to do this? What I started to talk about yesterday, how easy it is to unduly project perfection on other magicians around us, especially when we're in the position of being in an organization, a Golden Dawn-ish type organization, or the Masons or something, who have lofty goals that their statement of purpose is brotherhood of man and equality and fairness and justice, and then you join the organization, take all sorts of oaths and everything else, and then discover that quite a few people are just not living up to that according to your projected standards. And so you throw the organizational baby out with the individual bathwater. Here's something I wrote a while back in a little essay called Are You a Rosicrucian? But while Liber Libri is still fresh in your mind, that beautiful thing I just read, let's see, how do I start here? Okay. O thou who meetest jerks and assholes, rejoice because of them, for in them is strength, and by their means is a pathway open unto that light. How should it be otherwise, O man and O woman, whose life is but a day in eternity, a drop in the ocean of time? How were the idiots not many? Couldst thou purge thy soul from the dross of earth? Is it but now that the higher life is beset with dolts and morons? Hath it not ever been so with sages and hierophants of the past? They've been ignored and insulted. They've been beset by committees and inquisitions. They have been stalked by psychopathic, disgruntled former members. They've been tormented by psychotic, megalomaniacal rival sages and hierophants. Yet through this all their glory has increased. Rejoice therefore, O initiate, for the greater thy trial and the greater thy triumph. And survival is the first and last ordeal of initiation. And then I go on to give the example of when Israel Regardie died immediately. I mean immediately before his face was out of the soup. Okay, people started to write eulogies about how much Regardie liked them. And I give the example of this Stonehenge equinox. And I'm not going to read the Stonehenge equinox thing. I've read it so many times. But all these people, some of them knew Regardie well, and some of them met him once or twice, and some of them had corresponded with him, and some wrote him, but he never wrote back. And some of them always planned on writing them, but never did writing him. But anyway, let's see here. I'm going to skip ahead because I'm already taking us too long. Who are Rosicrucians? Am I a Rosicrucian? Are you a Rosicrucian? I think that as long as I don't claim to be a Rosicrucian and you don't claim to be a Rosicrucian, there's a chance that both of us might be Rosicrucians. As a naive young mystic, I imagined a group of spiritual adepts, masters of the magical arts, super cool men and women pledged to the spiritual advancement of humanity. Men and women living all over the world, but joined together to form an invincible magical network, extraordinary individuals who gained enlightenment and who are not afraid to use it. It is to this magical order we pledged ourselves in our youth. We placed our hands on the sacred symbols and dedicated our lives to becoming masters of our destinies, masters of our souls. And then, as if this oath invoked a terrible god of bait and switch, we found ourselves, for the next season of our lives, focusing the laser beam of our one-pointed will, not upon the process of becoming masters of our souls, but upon the process of becoming masters of our lodges. And after that, we absorbed ourselves in becoming leaders of our orders. Almost overnight, we turned from wide-eyed acolytes to bleary-eyed cat herders, carpenters, policemen, and accountants. Sure, the neophytes consider us adepts. They come to us for guidance and instruction and inspiration. But where does the adept go for the same things? As a cynical middle-aged magician, I realized that this body of Rosicrucian adepts was a fantasy. That people, no matter how magically educated and trained, were still flawed human beings, even the great souls. Imperators abscond with the dues and move to Andorra. Hierophants hit on your wife. Magi use sleight of hand. Oaths are written by smucks who could never in good conscience utter them themselves. The light of the mysteries turns easily into the dark night of the soul. How many of our brothers and sisters have slipped away from us in the darkness? But we have survived because survival is the first and last ordeal of initiation. And for those who survive the dark night of the soul, does indeed break forth in a golden dawn. There comes a time in each of our initiatory lives when we are inwardly informed in no uncertain terms that no matter what may happen in the future, we will always be linked to that great order. That doesn't mean we can't resign or quit or go inactive or be expelled from this or that organization. Of course we can. It simply means that we have been initiated, truly initiated. And no matter what objective circumstances of our lives may be, nothing can take that initiation away from us, because we're changed. More than that, we've begun. We've begun an unstoppable process of changing that will inevitably take each of one of us to the summit of spiritual evolution. No matter how much we screw up, no matter how many toes we step on, no matter how many hearts we break, we've been initiated and we've begun. So remember, my brothers and sisters, when thou art a jerk, an asshole, pray that your brethren will rejoice because of you. Because of you, they will become strong. Because of your embarrassing example, will a pathway be open unto that light? How should it be otherwise? How wert thou not at times a complete idiot? Couldst others purge their souls from the dross of earth? Is it now? Is it but now that the higher life is beset with buffoons such as we? Nay, it has ever been such with the sages and hierophants of the past. They've been ignored and insulted. They have been misunderstood and tormented by self-centered fools just like us. Yet because of fools such as we, their glory has increased. Rejoice, therefore, O initiate, for you're not alone. Rejoice in the sure knowledge that you are just as big a pain in the ass to your brothers and sisters as they are to you. We need each other. We need each other to survive. For in the great order, the greater our trial, the greater our triumph. And survival is the first and last ordeal of initiation. And that's it for the order of Monday morning on Monday morning. Think on this. And hopefully I'll have a haircut tomorrow. Until then, continue to be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And survive. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.